Joining us now to analyze today's headlines is Arun Gupta. He's a journalist and a regular contributor to The Guardian, In These Times, The Progressive and Truth Out. Hi, Arun.
Hi, Sonali.
The United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and Counter-Terrorism has recommended criminal prosecution for high-level Bush administration officials who condoned the CIA's use of torture against detainees in the post-9/11 years. The bold push is based on the release of a 500-plus page executive summary of a report by the Senate Intelligence Committee that both the CIA Obama administration as well as former Bush-era officials fought tooth and nail to prevent from making public. Ben Emerson, the UN rapporteur, said, quote, "The individuals responsible for the criminal conspiracy revealed in today's report must be brought to justice and must face criminal penalties commensurate with the gravity of their crimes." President Obama, in a speech following the report's release, made it clear he would rather sweep it all under the rug. The president said, rather than another reason to refight old arguments, "I hope that today's report can help us leave these techniques where they belong, in the past." Now, Arun, is the U.S. left with no choice under international U.S. law but to prosecute based on this report? Or will our leaders simply find a way to use arguments of American exceptionalism to say that we are above the law?
I'm not even sure that they'll use arguments. They'll just ignore it. The U.S. Impunity is American as apple pie. I mean, we can just go through the list of wars. The Vietnam War, the Indochina Wars, the Central American Wars, so many of the proxy wars during the Cold War involved just horrific, systematic atrocities, killing of millions of people in Vietnam alone, and no one was ever held accountable for them. What's gone on? You have a president who's waged 8 illegal wars, essentially, in President Obama. So they'll just sweep it all under the rug. There's certainly no call, no clamor for prosecution. And, we saw yesterday the ACLU published an op-ed in the New York Times saying, just pardon them all because that'll send a message that they committed a crime. And I think, unfortunately, that won't happen, but that's probably the most that could be expected of a government that, coddles bankers and cops.
Right. In what may be a short break from a yearly tradition, members of Congress may actually pass a government funding plan. There is still a chance that the looming and recurrent fear of a shutdown will pan out this year, with current funding expiring on Friday at midnight. Negotiators have put together a $1.1 trillion spending plan that mostly keeps in place domestic levels of spending, except for the Department of Homeland Security, whose budget will have to be renegotiated in February. Republicans, who will have a majority in both houses of Congress starting in January, have, through such a move, effectively put off their threat of shutting down the government over President Obama's executive action on immigration. It appears as though it will be among the first orders of business in the new year. Arun, how nice of the GOP to give us something to look forward to in January. I can't wait. Can you?
Oh, no, not at all. I think, though, we need to recognize that already what the Republicans are doing is that they are, as part of this deal, they are cutting environmental regulation, and they're also weakening derivatives trading. So they have a pretty clear agenda, but it's nothing that Obama doesn't very much support as well. I think, though, the big worry is, of course, on immigration, but we have to understand also that Obama has came out explicitly this week supporting the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would be absolutely devastating in terms of its effects on U.S. labor and the economy and the environment.
And finally, Time magazine has chosen its Person of the Year, and as it has done occasionally in the past, this year's person is not really a person, but a group of people, the healthcare workers, including doctors and nurses on the front lines of treating victims of Ebola. The magazine justified its choice, saying the rest of the world can sleep at night because a group of men and women are willing to stand and fight for tireless acts of courage and mercy, for buying the world time to boost its defenses, for risking, for persisting, for sacrificing and saving. The Ebola fighters are Time's 2014 Person of the Year. Among the other contenders for the honor were Ferguson protesters and Malala Yousafzai. Arun, do you think this was a good choice?
Well, I think Time magazine has forgotten its own criteria. The Person of the Year was originally meant as the most newsworthy person. So in the past, it had picked people such as Hitler, which was very controversial. But the fact is, he was the most newsworthy person. In terms of who Time is choosing as the Ebola fighters, it's a feel-good choice. No one could dispute that they were incredibly brave, but they, in their selection of the Ebola fighters, Time just completely sweeps under the rug the destruction of the health infrastructure in the underdeveloped world. And you know, I would say, like, what we need to see one of these years is Time magazine picking the state or the financial markets as the person of the year. It has picked abstract entities like that before, like the internet, because that is who really has far more influence on the news on a day-to-day basis.
Arun, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. Arun Gupta is a journalist and a regular contributor to The Guardian in these times, The Progressive, and True Thought. And also today is Arun's last day as news analyst on a regular basis for Uprising. He's going to be traveling for several months. So Arun, thank you for all the years you've been with us. I know we'll be bringing you back on Uprising as a guest for sure in the future. And thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Sonali. It's been great to be with you.
Arun Gupta again, and I'm sure you will be seeing him in the future on Uprising. This is Uprising, and when we come back, we'll hear from John A. Powell. Stay tuned.